And here today with me is the very wonderful Kiara. Hello, Kiara. How are you today?
Hi, Emily. I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very, very well indeed. Thank you for sparing some time with me today. I just really want to talk about your extraordinary journey and how you've moved into the world of remote work and dominating it. So let's start from the beginning. First of all, who are you? Tell me about your who is Kiara not at work?
Okay, so Kiara is a 24-year-old. She is a bookworm. She reads her whole life away. A mom to two beautiful pups, and just a really passionate individual overall when it comes to work, my life. And yeah, that's essentially all that I am.
That's fantastic. And talk me through it's almost like an interview, this, but so talk me through where you first started, because you started out in Velcom, and that was not
Yeah,
a remote job. You were in person.
yeah,
Ha-
yeah. So
Tell me about that.
I Okay, so I started in Valcom. Essentially, I finished high school, I got my matric, and then as soon as I finished, I was like, I could either go study or I could start working. What's the most important thing? And so I kind of actually just started working. Valcom is a really, really small town, so remote work was unknown. I didn't even know something like that existed. And I started out as a counter sales consultant, and then I got draw up to like a personal assistant, and then from there I went over to like an ops project manager type of role. And I was there for a long time. I was there for 2 years, and then yeah, I wanted to leave the small town life behind, and I wanted to grow, and I got an opportunity to move to Pretoria, which is obviously a much bigger town. And yeah, I just grew from there. Yeah, exactly.
And so,
Yeah.
and that again, when you were a personal assistant in Pretoria, you were that was in person in an office environment still.
Yes. Yes, it was at a coding firm in Centurion. So it was completely in person, no working from home, even though it was a coding company.
Gosh, gosh, and did you enjoy working in the office?
I did, but I also didn't. I'm quite an independent individual. I like sitting and just doing my work. And when you're in office, it's quite difficult because you get interrupted quite a lot because there's so many outer people. They're there. They want to come stand at your desk and chat to you. And so, if I have to compare how I was back then to now, now I get a lot more done during the day. Whereas when I was in office, I really struggled with getting through all of my duties in one day. Where now I'm like, I do it in 2 hours. So that's quite amazing. But yeah, the office life definitely I think wasn't for me.
Fantastic. And then you sent your CV into remote recruitment a year and a bit ago now, 18 months ago, 14, a year and a quarter ago. What
Yeah.
made you decide to look for remote work? What were the drivers?
So I know a lot of people usually say, I just want to work from home. That's like my drive. And it honestly, it wasn't for me. I was just looking for a company where I could really just grow. And I tried really hard growing within the company. And I mean, remote recruitment, I saw the lovely advertisements, and all of them were there, and I was like applying, and I got really good feedback, and I interviewed with the client, and unfortunately, I didn't get it, but you guys always kept in contact with me, and then I got my job at remote recruitment, which is quite ironic. And yeah, it was purely for the fact that I was just looking for an opportunity where I would grow and not remain stagnant in one role, because that's kind of where I was at that point. And yeah, that's how I got in contact with remote recruitment. It was just an add-on, then it was remote, but it was a great add-on.
And what's the job situation like now in South Africa in general?
It's quite dire. It's not good. So overall, we have really high what do you call it?
Unemployment.
Uh, Unemployment rate, yes. We have really high unemployment rates. If I look at a lot of the candidates that we work with, a big thing that usually is pointed out is longevity in roles. And it's honestly, it's not because of candidates, it's just about the work life balance in South Africa, and that there isn't work for people, and people get retrenched quite a lot. So it's quite sad, and it's not good to see. Yeah.
What advice would you give people who are currently looking for a job in South Africa?
So the first thing I would say is obviously include everything on your CV. I think that's a very big thing, because a lot of people, they think, oh, this doesn't matter, but for a client it does, because you might have just been a waiter or something like that, but they see it as you knew how to speak to people and you've spoken to people. And then the other thing is to not give up. I mean, when I was in the job market and I was looking for roles, I did get a lot of rejections. And although it could be discouraging, you need to see it as a positive and like, okay, I didn't get this because there's something better out there. And it's not always easy, but you need to change your mindset to it. And the moment that I changed my mindset to being a positive, then I got my opportunity at remote recruitment. And it's just that continuously trying and not giving up. And always just being honest about everything that you've done in your past and what your current situation is, because clients do value that quite a lot.
You really hit a nail on the head there when you said you have got to be resilient in the job market, because it is tough. And how much time a day did you dedicate to looking for a job?
So actually quite a lot. So I would I in South Africa you have your 1 hour lunch. I would usually take my 1 hour lunch and my tea time, which was about 30 minutes, and I would literally just sit and apply nonstop on LinkedIn. I wasn't even aware of LinkedIn. I created my LinkedIn profile, and then I saw, oh, okay, these jobs, and I applied for all of them, and that's how I found remote recruitment and just starting applying for those. I would say out of a week, I would maybe spend 20 hours a week just non-stop applying. Yes, you get bad feedback, but then that needs to motivate you even more to apply to more, because it sounds wrong, but it is like a numbers game. You need to apply the jobs that you're applicable to, and you're going to get that one or two that are going to come through.
100%. And yeah, very, very good advice there. Very good advice. So sort of fast forward to where a year ago, where I interviewed you, I saw you with a client who crazily didn't want you. So pleased, so pleased, and offered you a job as, gosh, it was a sort of assistant role back in those days, wasn't it? A very sort of
Yeah.
simple role. Um,
Yeah.
Talk to me about the transition into a remote work. What were the challenges of moving into a remote work space?
I think there's like two main ones. So the first one would have been, you're at home. And I think the challenge is what a lot of people fall into is like, I'm working at home, so I'm not going to get up and get ready. I'm just going to go and sit and work. And I think I had to change my mindset by getting ready as if I'm going to drive to work every day and I'm going to be in office, because even though you're remote, you are technically in office, you're just in an online office. And so treating it as such, I think that made a big difference, because in the beginning I didn't do it. And then around like the afternoon, you would go downhill because you're in comfortable clothes and, you're at home. So you're like, oh, I'm not motivated. But changing that was, I think, a big thing. And then the second thing is obviously in office, you have a lot of people around you. And so now you're alone and you don't have all these people around you. It's reaching out when you are feeling alone and speaking to your applicable person. Back then it was my general manager, and I would speak to her and just, have that conversations with people, because it can get lonely sometimes. But if you do speak to your colleagues and, you get in contact with them, even if it's just a quick chat, how's your day? And then going from having people in office to speak to not having people in office to speak to, I think that was a challenge, but it was also a good challenge, because it kind of taught me to sit and work and not just sit and chat the whole time, which is, I think it's a big add-on. And yeah, just being able to reach out to people.
Fantastic, fantastic. So obviously, yeah, you're now general manager of remote recruitment, South Africa's, well, one of the leading recruitment companies placing South Africans in the UK and North America. You've seen so many people, the good, the bad, the ugly, in terms of candidates. What are the worst, dreadful thing to say, top worst three things you've seen in an interview?
Okay, so the first one is joining without it's going to sound so wrong, but having a bonnet on your head on because you haven't gotten ready in time. I think that was one of the biggest things. When a candidate wasn't ready for the interview, she unfortunately joined with a hairstyle in a bonnet and all of that. And when you are doing interviews, even though it's remote, you do need to look really presentable, because that's the first impression they're going to get of you. They're not seeing you in person. And then I think the second one is where a candidate did not come prepared, where they didn't go and they did the research on the company. It's so impressive when you see a candidate and you can see they did research on the company, because then you're going to feel more calm when you do the interview. But when you didn't do research, you're going to be stressed and you're going to be so scared that this client asks you about their company. And I think those were my top two worst ones. Was definitely those.
Fantastic. And what are the best ones? What are the best interviews you've seen in terms of candidates, apart from yourself?
So I would say it's gonna go in the same way. It was one of the candidates did so much research on the company. I think it was for a marketing position, where she, like, when they asked her about what we do you know what we do? She went like, okay, you guys do this and this and this and this. And I saw this on your website. This isn't working. I used my tools and I checked a little bit and I can see this is not working. I think we need to change it to this if I am hired. And that's impressive because it shows the proactiveness in what she did. Even if it's just a first stage interview, she doesn't even know if she has the job. And she did that proactively. I think that was literally, I would say, one of the most impressive things I've seen in a very, very long time.
You're absolutely right. And it's a big deal breaker for any employer if they haven't looked at the LinkedIn profile, haven't looked at the website, do some basic research, and it will carry you a long way. Now, you've also seen, since you've been at Remote Recruitment, you've been instrumental in helping an awful lot of people get jobs. And you see it the other side, from the client side. What's the benefits for clients to have top talent from South Africa?
Well, I would say there's a few, because the South African market is so bad and so low with the unemployment, or so high with the unemployment rate. We really work hard, and I know a lot of people always say, "I'm going to work hard, I'm going to be great," but it is really like that here, because we have to fight to get a job. And I think when we get that opportunity to do a job, we're going to do everything in our power to just excel nonstop. And I think that's a real big positive for clients hiring from South Africa. There are other factors like, we're close in time zones and all of that. But I think when it comes to actually doing the job, we're going to do everything to do 160% at that job. And we want to keep the job. So the longevity is there again, because it is so bad in South Africa. You are going to want to stay in a job, have it as long as you can, and also grow in that job, because you're not going to get that opportunity necessarily here. And I think that's a big positive for a client.
I agree with you. And this is a tough question to put you on but what would you say would be the biggest success story that you've seen from a client and a candidate's perspective?
That's a good one. I would say it is a client where we placed a property, I think it's a property practitioner with, from South Africa, with a client. And at first they were quite hesitant, the client. But the moment she started, it's just been great. Their sales has gone up so much. She's gotten a really good bonus. It's amazing to see when someone's thriving like that. And now they're to the point where they do not want to lose her. Like, she's so important to them. And I think that's one of my biggest, I would say, client success stories is jumping on a Zoom with the clients, and just where at the beginning it was like quite a hesitant story of them wanting someone from South Africa, because they've never been in that situation to hire remotely from South Africa, to being, I do not want to lose this person. Like, I'll do anything to keep this person because they've grown my business so much, and I want to compensate them for that as well. I think that was one of the biggest successes that we've had.
I know exactly who you're talking about, and it's the best part of the job, isn't it? When you see something that you've helped to matchmake grow
Yeah.
and blossom, it's wonderful. It's the best thing ever. In terms of misconceptions from employers about South Africans, what would you say would be the biggest misconception?
That's a good question.
So
um, I would say, I would say they are scared of the knowledge base that we do have because we're in South Africa and the UK is different. It's easy to make the presumption that we don't know how it works in the UK, and to an extent that is true. But also because South Africa is so similar to the UK in the same way, a lot of the stuff that we do are the same as the UK. So first of all, our schooling system, if you are in an English school, you're taught British English, not US English. So, and our laws is quite similar to UK laws as well. And I would say that's one of the biggest misconceptions, is that we don't understand the UK as much as we would understand South Africa. But there's nothing that we can't do to just research it and understand it a little bit more. I've been in the company now for quite some time, and that was one of even my I would say things I was scared about, is because I was studying law, so I was studying South African law, and I was so scared that I wouldn't know anything about UK law. Um, and when in actuality, when I started helping the company with just a few things, I was like, this is exactly like South Africa. Like it's not that different. And that's what I always say to clients is, yes, there is a difference, but predominantly our government, or not our government, that's not a good word, but our I would say legal system is very much a lot alike, because our legal system is based off of the UK legal system. So I would say that's one of the biggest misconceptions.
yeah, I think you're right there, and there are so many similarities. And I think what you picked up on earlier. I just want to echo the work ethic of South Africans is sort of something we haven't seen in the UK for 20, 30 years, and most employers just love that. That you want to work hard and succeed, and the ambition. It's not something we're used to in the UK anymore, which is so sad. But that's where we're at now. And you're in an amazing. You're one of my biggest success stories. You know, you started off as an admin, and now you're essentially, yeah, general manager, doing all sorts of incredible things and managing quite a large team. Now, something that's often asked to me when I'm talking to employers is, how do you manage a team remotely that you've never met? Um, and I must admit, at first, I was quite daunted with that. And I speak to you more than I speak to my own mother, but I've never sat opposite you, had a drink with you, laughed with. I mean, we laugh a lot, but we've never actually been in the same, breathed the same air. What would be your advice on managing a team that's fully remote, that's never met each other?
I would say there's a few things that you can do. So the first thing, and I think it's the easiest thing that you can get on, is communication. So in communications, there's so many different factors. So it's having a meeting with them specifically, even if they've started every day in the morning, just having a small catch up session. It could be 30 minutes, 15 minutes, but just coming back together, having a discussion with each other, seeing where the day is, putting your expectations clearly down for what you expect from them, and then vice versa. If they are struggling with something, they then have that comfortability of speaking with you and they're seeing you. And then I would say another way is, again, which is in the communication side, is checking in with them regularly. So what I do with our team is, we have our morning meeting, which is amazing because we get caught up, but throughout the day I'll give them a little call and just check in where they are going, what they're struggling with. And usually that opens up the channel for them having a conversation with me, if it's just having a casual conversation and making it feel like they're not anymore lonely, or if it's something that's bothering them in the company, and just having those conversations. I think that's one of the biggest things, and just having the right tools as well. Having your Zoom set up and all of your systems to make it a success, because as much as communication is part of everything, having the right tools also makes the success of this candidate.
I think you're absolutely right. And tech stack is everything, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um, Tech stack is everything, whether you decide to use Zoom, Slack, or WhatsApp, or Teams. Having a simple tech stack and being consistent is 9/10 of it. And you're absolutely right as well. Communication, I think, is where it can go wrong so quickly. And I know you can think, who I'm talking about here, a client of ours. amazing client, amazing talent, and in the after first month, they were describing different people to each other, and we were trying to decipher what was going on. And then it's
Yeah,
only actually when we got to the bottom of it, and we discovered that they weren't having that morning meeting and communicating correctly, was the problem. And now
yeah,
they've tripled they've 10x their business in a year, tripled their turnover, I think. So it's an
yeah,
extraordinary thing. It's so powerful, that morning meeting. And again, I think, yeah, employers often, and I think it's the same with talent, there's that assumption, isn't there, that the other person
yeah,
knows what you're doing. And that you
exactly.
can't assume anything.
Yeah, assumption is the root of all failure.
I think you're right there, Kiara. It really, really, really is. We've seen at the moment there's this huge revolution in outsourcing and getting amazing talent from other parts of the world. How do you think this can help to revolutionise UK, American, Northern European businesses?
I think it opens up more, I would say, the market for them. You know, everyone has their own thing that they're doing. The more I am in this position, the more I learn of different jobs that are out there. It's not just your normal admin and sales and all of, there's so many different jobs. And what happens sometimes is if you're in the UK, USA, wherever you are, you're limited to a certain amount of candidates because not a lot of people have up qualifications or experience in that because it's not a normal thing to do. And this opens it up so much more because of, you know, again, I'm going to come back to it, but because of the work situation in South Africa, we try to upskill ourselves in so many different things. I mean, I've studied law. I'm not in law, but I've studied it so that I know I can use it in a workplace. And it's the same with all South Africans out there. We're trying to be so successful, and so we're upskilling, we're Googling, you know, what is the highest rate for this and that, and then they upskill themselves in it. And so there's more openness to have more candidates for that instead of being just restricted to the, let's say, the 100 that you have currently where you are. Now you maybe have 2,000. So it's that opening it up a lot more for people.
So absolutely. I mean, we're as a business very sort of AI forward, and we're early adopters in 2022, and AI is throughout our business thanks to our amazing CMO and CTO. But how do you think the role of AI is? How does it help you working remotely, first of all?
I think there's so many different factors. Just I would say that how comfortable and easy it is to use AI. I remember when I started, I used to write everything down, and I had lists here on a Google Doc, and then I had a list here on a Google Doc, and then you're going to miss something somewhere because you have 10,000 lists everywhere, and rightfully stated. So our CMO forward slash CTO, she sets up these amazing automated systems that half of my job has gone to AI. And it's so nice because now I just need to check that it's doing it correctly. And I have more time to spend it on growing the team, helping the team, you know, doing all of those things. And I think that's one of the biggest differences that AI have made in my position, and I think everyone else's. It's making it easier to do your job. It's not taking your job, it's just making it so that you can do the best that you can do instead of feeling overwhelmed with everything that you have to do.
That's fantastic, Kiara. Thank you so much for that. And do you think you would ever go back to the world of an office?
No. Never.
Never. Are you
Never.
remote through and through now?
Yes, I'm a remote recruitment through and through now.
Yeah, that's my girl. Thanks for the plug there, Kiara. Much appreciated. Well, Kiara, thank you so much for your time today. You've been really enlightening. Your insights into gaining work from South Africa remotely in England has been fantastic, and what it's like to work remotely. And thank you very much for your time. I, for one, bloody love you, and such an integral part of my business. I can't imagine you being anywhere else. So thank you very much for your time, Kiara.
Thank you too.